Megan Fox.
Yeah, Megan Fox has the story.
Megan Fox.
Megan Fox.
Megan Fox writes at PJ Media.
Eat Tucker.
And that was your last.
Damn it, man. I cried for 2 days.
Megan, thank you very much for that.
So, I can explain the bed thing.
If you don't show up and vote, up your ass. I don't care if you're in the hospital. Crawl to the stake. Crawl there.
It's like Jesus going into the temple. He's like, I got a whip! Get out! Get out! The lovely and wonderful Megan Fox. Not that one.
Not that one. Not the weird one that drinks blood in his toe thumb.
Megan Fox.
Megan. And honestly, Megan, if you don't like it, I'm sorry.
She's the devil.
Megan.
Megan Fox.
Megan.
Megan.
Megan Fox.
I've been very nice to you, although I could probably maybe not be based on the way you have treated me, but I wouldn't do that.
You've never met a like me. You want to tangle? You want to go? Holy sh!
Too much cussing on this. I guess we didn't bleep it, so we got to turn it off. But it's.
You pissed off the wrong woman.
Oh my God! I have been assaulted, but Megan Fox runs wild on you, brother.
She's the devil.
Not for publication.
The story.
I'm Megan.
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 Megan Fox.
Thank
Thank you. Cheers.
Oh, you caught me mid-chew. All right, that intro has to be at least 30 seconds longer so I can finish chewing my snack because I've eaten nothing all day. And that's never a good idea. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the show. I'm Megan Fox. Oh, shoot, I've got bagel in my teeth. Darn it. I'm Megan Fox. I'm an investigative journalist. I have been following the Maya Kowalski trial with all of you. We have been through the ringer with this trial, haven't we? I can't believe it's still not over because it's still not over. And no matter what goes on, whatever happens, it's like the defense just keeps on trying. They keep on trying. And one of the biggest stories to come out of this trial, dang it, bagel. One of the biggest stories to come out of this trial is the defense of All Children's Hospital, Johns Hopkins, J. Hatch, All Shopkins, John Shopkins, All Prisoners Hospital, was their all-out assault on juror number 1 and his wife. I know that we were so outraged by their assault and accusing him of juror misconduct, accusing his wife of things that she's legally allowed to do. And we have been discussing and ruminating, and finally we got what we were all looking for on this one issue.
Denied. Sit down.
Finally, Judge Carroll, he finally did it. Not maybe as vociferously and strongly as we would have liked, but he did call juror number 1 into the courtroom. He asked him the questions. Juror number 1, whose name is actually Paul, we can now call him Paul, answered those questions the way we thought he would answer the questions, and that appears to be over. And coming to the program now are forever to be known as juror number 1 and his wife, Paul and Yolanda. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Greetings.
I'm so happy that you're here. What a shirt. Wow.
Oh.
This one this one
I
is
tried to tone it down today.
we enjoy your fashion sense, Paul. I got a kick out of what you were wearing in the court. You look very sharp, and you're not afraid of bold colors. This is good, I think.
Yes. You definitely know when I've entered a room.
It's interesting that even during your interview the other day with the judge, Judge Carroll was joking around with you. He was making cracks about your hair. Apparently, and we couldn't see you, on TV, so we had no idea what any of the jurors looked like. You dyed your hair orange for Halloween at some point, and the judge noticed, obviously. And it seems like we may not have been privy to a lot of the back and forth between the jury and the judge at times. He appears to have had kind of a fun back and forth with the jury, and he was paying attention to your hairstyles, no less. What were your overall opinions of Judge Carroll? Because it seems like you like the entire jury and the judge had a lot of love for one another.
He was, I guess he granted us a lot of latitude, especially probably myself, because, my attire during court was very low key, usually. I wore like a guayabera, solid colors, blue or red or orange, and regular slacks, solid colors, and, was kind of nondescript in my attire. But I'm very animate a lot of time, or, I'm not Italian, but I use my hands. I make a lot of nods and faces and eyebrow raises. And I think he kind of understood that. And there was I'd be horrible at playing poker. And so he picked up on that. And,
Me too, by the way. I have a really hard time
even
keeping
though
my
we
focus
couldn't
under
talk to
control.
each other.
Yeah, he seemed to really, in fact, we had a running joke on my show that you should find someone who looks at you the way that this judge looks at this jury. Somebody because he just appeared to really love you guys, and he was treating you with the utmost respect. And I liked to see that. That wasn't one of the things that I liked about Judge Carroll the most, actually, throughout this entire trial, was his back and forth with the jury and trying to make you guys feel comfortable. I wanted to start out, Paul, by asking you about your background in law enforcement. This is something about you that really interests me. So, how long ago did you start in law enforcement, and what kind of law enforcement did you do?
Let's see. I prepped. I'm not too sure. It was probably just out of high school. I said, you know what? I want to be a police officer like my sister. My sister, about 3 years older than me, was a police officer with the city of Hialeah before I was. And I went and rode with her a couple times uh, uh, while she was doing her patrol work and stuff. And so I said, you know what? I think that's for me. And so I went and I started working for all places, a department store called Burdines of Florida, which was eventually, I believe, bought out by Macy's. But I worked there as security, learning the ropes. My boss back then was a retired New York police officer. His first name was Frank. His son was in Miami-Dade Police Department as well, and got the feeling, a little bit of background, and plus that would look good on my resume when I filled it out for the City of Hialeah Police Department. And I believe it was in 1986, I filled out the applications, went through all the testing and psychological evaluations, and I believe it was January 1st, 2nd, or 3rd or so of 1997 that I got a letter saying, come on down. And I went into the police basic law enforcement at Miami-Dade Community College North Campus. And for about 6 months studied all that police writing, scenarios, shoot, don't shoot, target practicing, and then was released with what's called a training officer, where you ride about 2-3 months with another established law enforcement, and then they rate you. Usually work day shift, midnight shift, afternoon shift, and then a spell on accident investigation, so you know how to write the accident reports. And then with good marks on that, you're cut loose, and that's all she wrote.
So what did you end up doing on the force? What was your I guess your specialty?
Uh, Coffee and donut shops, probably. That was no. First, I was on patrol, like everyone starts out as patrol, and then I spent, I believe it was about 2 years on something new, a foot patrol on an area that's known as Palm Avenue, which used to be in its heyday in the 20s and 30s, 1920s and 30s, south of Hialeah Racetrack, had a lot of restaurants and hotels, and that's where City Hall was as well. But they were having a little bit of a bar problem and rowdy people, so they had us walk a foot patrol, and it was interesting. A couple other officers and my sister Sonia and myself were on this foot patrol, walking about
Oh,
from
you got to
4th
patrol
Street to
with your
6th Street.
sister? How fun.
Yes, and it
Did you
was
get to do some drunk
great.
takedowns with your own sister? That would be those are some good family stories around the
No,
Thanksgiving
no,
table.
we tried not to drink on the job. So,
I
yeah.
meant the the
Oh,
perps,
oh,
Paul. The
oh.
perps.
No, it was because you get to know where the problems are, and yeah, sometimes something would happen. We get a call, and we'd jog over there because we were on foot. We wore
It's
sneakers and
awesome.
stuff, and yeah, we had some exciting times, and I guess it's a rare experience to work with your sister or brother as a fellow cop. But yeah, no, it was great, and plus it was the town that we were both born in and went to schools and grew up. So unfortunately, a lot of the people we ended up arresting, we had gone to school with at one time or
Oh
another.
no.
Oh Lord,
Oh
that
no.
happened once or twice, but no, it was a good experience.
I have this idea in my this picture in my head of I don't know if you've ever watched Dog the Bounty Hunter, but he'll
Oh
get
yeah,
these guys when he finally gets them, he gets them into the back of the car and then he starts talking to them all kind and nice and sweet, like, "Hey man, what happened to you when you were back in the day or whatever? Like what happened? Where'd it go wrong?" I can imagine if you had to pick up people you went to high school with, it kind of went that way. Like,
yeah. In other
how's
words,
your mom and dad?
yeah, true. In other words, it's like, of course, a few of them you kind of knew were gonna head that way. It's just
Oh yeah.
but yeah, sometimes it would be for just something uh, not big that happened. It's not like everyone turned into like a felon or beat
Right.
people up or type thing. But it's kind of like, oh man, hey, and you reminisce and this and that.
Yeah.
And you try to get things done pleasantly because there's no ill will. They just did something they shouldn't have,
Well, I'm
maybe.
glad you said that
Yeah.
actually about being pleasant as a police officer. Watching you in your first interview, I got the impression that you're a pretty pleasant guy. And I often criticize police when I see them behaving in a way that to me does not suggest protecting and serving, but suggest authority and aggression. I don't like aggressive police. I think there's a time and place for aggression on the police force when you're dealing with an equally or more aggressive person. But we've been looking at cases recently like the Menendez case. I think his last name is Menendez. Is it Menendez? Anyway, it doesn't matter. The case that Jeff at Legal Vices and I have been following, where the young man was accosted by a police officer for standing on the side of the road eating a taco. And this guy just goes in full force with, do you have any weapons? What are you doing? And this poor guy doesn't even speak English. I mean, he has no idea. Next thing you know, they're on the ground fighting because the cops on top of him, and the cop dies of a heart attack because of the the exertion that he put into this. And they charge the kid with a capital murder of a police officer. Now they've put it down to manslaughter because everybody's getting, it's the Guatemalan kid. Yeah, Mendez Aguilar. Anyway, one of the things we've been talking about is that necessary? Like, if you come up to approach somebody that you think might be up to something that they shouldn't be up to, isn't the neighborhood cop, beat cop approach better? Like, hey buddy, what's going on? What you doing tonight? Like, do you catch more flies with honey, Paul?
Yeah, I found, in my tour of duty as an officer, it was always better to just first approach, be wary, because you never, for all he could be wanted for something,
Right.
and you as an officer don't accept. So you always got to be looking at their hands, looking at their feet, because that's where they're either going to kick you or they're going to give you, a 1-2 type thing. But an officer can easily inflame something into what it didn't have to be. I always found you talk, and then if there's some sort of, if it's going to be a confrontation or something, it'll happen. Just be ready for it. But just talk, kibitz. I think it's a Yiddish Jewish word.
That's
just
the
talk.
word.
Blah, 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 blah. Because a lot of times they're just waiting for something, doing something, or all right, well then move along.
Right.
And
Yeah, I feel
go to
like a
where
lot
you
of
need to be.
escalation is needless, especially and I don't know if it's because everybody's so on edge because of how violent and crazy everything has become, but somebody needs to be the de-escalator. Somebody needs to go in with peace on the mind. I would like it to be our armed officers, because I feel like they're going into these situations with an advantage. Most people are not wandering the street armed to the teeth or anything with tasers and guns. And so when somebody approaches you with those things, they should maybe take it easy at first so we don't escalate. Anyway, so you spent how many years on the force then, Paul?
About 13. After foot patrol, then I went back to regular or foot beat, whatever it was. Then that was dismantled. And then after that, I went back on the road, and then I became a motorman. Went through the police motorcycle training.
Oh, cool.
Then
You were like Chips Patrol. Awesome.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, riding around. I never rode a Harley, but I was on the regular Kawasaki's that the police had back then. And I mean, in Hialeah, outside of Miami, Dade County, you could easily write a couple books, 25 book per book of tickets. You could write those with your eyes closed. And often I did too. It was like, no. And just so everyone knows, we don't hide under trees or behind shrubs, because it's shady there. Okay. And that's what I'm sticking with. And I'm not changing my
You're not
story.
concealing, you're just getting
No,
some shade. I guess
just
that
happens,
kind of
that's
works.
where the shade is.
All right, so after Chips Patrol, what did you do after that?
After that, I was assigned also, I was a traffic homicide investigator,
Ooh,
which
traffic
means
homicide.
I had, special schooling in that. And I would, whenever there was a bad accident or fatality, we had a regular 1,700 units, they called them. But I was on call in the evenings a lot, or we'd rotate. And now after that, I did sustain a couple ouchies during my stay with the police department, and I was on light duty for about 2 years. Had some knee and back injuries, and then once the doctor said He's probably not going to be going out on the road. That's when it was either stay in an office or retire with a pension. And so I didn't want to be in the office. I'm an outside type person. So that's when I waved goodbye to the police department and then retired from that.
So when did you meet your wife Yolanda? When did that was that after you retired from the police force or before?
That was after I retired from the police department. Yes.
How did you guys meet?
It was a mail order bride. And no.
See, I keep telling people this is the secret to a long and happy relationship, and it's the secret to picking up women too, is the gift of making women laugh. If you can do that, you're golden. Just saying. Paul's a funny guy. Look, he's got a good wife too. She's sticking with it.
So Paul had already been married 20 years or almost 20
about
years
18 years.
or 18 years, and then I had also been married, but we both actually met online on eHarmony. That's how we met in 2012.
eHarmony. I remember when that was all the rage.
Yep. And as a matter of fact, in eHarmony, you put out, like, you answer a bunch of questions. You don't really, after you answer all these questions, then you decide what your radius is for people that you might want to date, close to you. And he was not even in my radius, but I was in his because he lived out in the boonies. So go ahead.
All the women that were being on my thing were like, what is it? Swipe left or swipe right? Not interested. No. So I expanded it, and lo and behold, Yoli pops up, and we start talking online, and then we go to like Yahoo Chat and talk ourselves. Now,
and just so you know, the picture that he posted was this guy all in leather on his next to his motorcycle with his little Pomeranian. And my daughter at the time was 14. I would show her these pictures. She's like, Mom, that's the one.
Yes, I had a cute little
that's funny
mini Pomeranian, Coco, and I got that in the divorce from my son, and we lived together, and that was it. I was riding my motorcycles, my boots, enjoying life, and said, it's time. And so I took a macho picture with my little puppy. It got her attention.
All right. Well, that's an awesome story. And a lot of people are like, oh my God, an eHarmony success story. You guys should write into them and they'll feature you or something. I don't even know if they're a thing anymore. McRae sent me a $30 tip on Locals. Thank you, McRae. Says, I just want to say I appreciate Paul and Yolanda for their service to the court. It can't have been easy dealing with that for 9 weeks, plus the aftermath. Much love to you both, and also Megan for making it happen. What has it been like to go from being relatively unknown to suddenly juror number 1 and his wife, with all these people who now know who you are, and people are talking about you, news articles are being written. What is that like? I'm sure you weren't expecting that when you got your jury summons.
No, I thought it was going to be, just regular go, blah, blah, blah. Amazed that I was even selected to be on the jury, because I've been summoned before. And as soon as they know that, I have a police background, I'm usually stricken from the rolls and then get sent home. But this one, they kept me. So I said, well, this is kind of neat, so let me try it.
Was this the first time you'd ever been on a jury?
Correct.
Oh my God. What are the chances? Wow.
And I didn't know what it was about until about maybe, I don't know if the judge mentioned. Yeah, I think the judge mentioned it. Yes. During the jury selection, when he talked in the other attorneys were on both sides of the table. So that's at that when I knew it was, but I had never heard of it because I'm from Dade County. And I think when I moved over here, because it was cheaper to live here in Sarasota, Florida, but it ain't now. And
Nothing is. Okay,
I
we're
never
all
heard of
dealing with
it,
this.
so I couldn't say anything to anyone, but it, 2 more days and they called me back down. And I was the first one in the building. That's why I got the number 1 sticker.
Mhm.
So I was juror number 1. And I was also, I thought, oh, I didn't get picked, but I was the 12th juror to be called to go have a seat in the jury pool. I thought, oh man, they're not picking me. And I said, oh, that's good because, no big deal. I'm used to it. But no, I was the last one, number 12, called up there. But
About how many times before had you been called for jury service and not selected?
I'd say about 4 times.
Wow.
Not a
I've
lot.
only been called up one time, and it's almost like they put a red flag by my name in the database, and nobody's ever bothered call me again because the second they found out what I do for a living, that I'm a journalist, yeah, she's out of here. We don't want her.
Right.
They don't want that. In fact, there was a guy here in Rochester who was on the radio. He's a news guy. He has a 4-hour daily talk show, and he got called up for jury duty, and he's pretty well known in this area, and they kept him. I couldn't believe it. I was like, how do you keep that guy? But I don't get on. I'm just a freelancer. Nobody knows my name. But they keep the radio host with a 4-hour show every day, and he got to do it. And I was so jealous. I was like, man, I I want to be in there because I would love to be on a jury. Although after watching what you two went through, I have been a little bit like, whoa, hold on. So, what do you think it was? What was it like for you when that moment happened? Like, where you see the defense's motion for a new trial? We're not going to get into what was in it, but what was it like for you to just see that you're just all over the place in this? You must have known after the trial when you started catching up on stuff that they wanted you gone in the first place.
Right. So when their motion came out for, me being part of many other things uh, to try to get a new trial, it kind of it it was expected. So because I had once I got out, the wife here we had like a marathon thing over
I
the
bet she
weekend.
was
Oh, this,
dying to
oh,
show
that.
you.
As a matter of fact, even when I was being escorted out of the jury room in the courthouse, uh, someone mentioned that was walking alongside me. You got to look at what was going on because can't say I won't say what, but man, you were an item. So and I said, really, and so
Oh,
that's when when I got home that evening. It was
Yolanda, what was it like for you when the day you're watching the trial and they start complaining about your husband?
Knowing him, I was like, "Oh, why couldn't you behave? Behave." But I couldn't say anything to him because that's the way he is. He's, well,
Well, he
he's
said he's expressive. He
yeah,
said
yeah.
he makes faces.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, "You're gonna get kicked out, you're gonna get kicked out." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And I couldn't say anything. So when he got out and he got home that night, I was like, "Oh my gosh, you got to see everything that happened with you. Almost got kicked out." He goes, "Yeah, somebody said I have to see what happened with me." And it was
Oh,
really
that's
cool
so funny.
to
The thing too, one of the things that killed me about that, about their so-called evidence was they actually had a post of yours, Paul, after the trial, like when you're allowed to post about this.
right.
And it said something like, and I'm paraphrasing, but it said something like, give me a minute. I'm trying to catch up. I will get back to everybody who wants to contact me, but I'm just now catching up on everything I missed. And I thought, Well, there's the evidence right there that this man was not doing any of this stuff that they claim he was doing, because he's clearly saying, and they put it in the motion. Anyway, moving on. We don't want to stay on that motion. But I do want to know, and everybody wants to know, I asked my locals group at meganfox.locals.com, where there is a members only live chat going right now, where you can post all the memes and the fun stuff that you want, and also ask questions for Paul and Yolanda here. One of the biggest questions that came out of locals was, as a former LEO, which witness seemed the least credible to you and why?
Please, yeah, because as a juror, you have to weigh the evidence, where the evidence comes from, and if it's the person telling it. Well, first off, plainly, that detective who questioned
Stephanie Graham.
Mr. Walker, because half of her story is, well, I don't have to tell him I'm recording it, but then no, it was out in front of him. Well, you're going all over the place, and I just felt, she's a detective. She went in there, and I even asked the question, to go in there to prove a predetermined timeline or what you wanted, or were you there to find the truth type thing? And I didn't care for her answers to questions I was allowed to ask. And then there were questions that didn't get asked, that because they didn't get asked, I couldn't find her as credible as I guess the defense would have wanted her to be. In other words, she was my top
visitor.
Hold on. I did pull up a couple of clips that I wanted to show you about this exact thing. I had a feeling you were going to name her. And here's a moment where she's talking about the recording. Let's watch this.
Right?
Yes.
And you told him you were going to ask him some questions, did you not?
I asked if we could talk, yes.
Mm-hmm. And one thing you did not say at the start was, oh, and I'm going to be recording you.
No, I did not.
And in fact, your phone that you recorded it on was on your purse, kind of half in and half out of your purse, sitting next to you.
Generally, if I've done hundreds of recorded interviews, it is either on the table, and sometimes, yes, it might be in my bag. That specific day, based on the recording's clarity, I had reason to believe that it was on the table.
Okay. And so Jack Kowalski, for the most of this conversation, did not know you were recording him.
He didn't. The recording states that there was some conversation prior to the recording starting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall telling him, but there is no right to privacy when you're talking to the police. I can record conversations as part of any criminal investigation.
Well, you knew he was represented by counsel, did you not?
I was not aware he was represented in any criminal matter.
Well, you knew he was being represented in the matter involving his daughter there at.
Oh, I hate it when YouTube does this. Stupid YouTube. Let me check the settings. I got to switch the settings. There we go. That should make it better. We'll make it even less than that. One of the things that killed me about this was this conversation about the lawyer. Here we go. Whoops. Because if you're an officer and you know that he's got a lawyer, Paul, do you think you would have done it a little differently than Stephanie Graham did here?
Well, not being able to tell what was going through her head, but she's just trying to, in other words, her out is, like she said, oh, yes, but the lawyer wasn't for a criminal matter. In other words, that was for something civil. So that's different. If she's trying to imply, at least in my opinion, that, oh, if he would have had a lawyer because he was being investigated for a criminal matter, then I would have conducted myself differently. So she's making that distinction. Oh, yeah, I knew he had a lawyer, but not for a criminal matter. So it's okay for me to question. Well, it wasn't an interview. What you do when you go for a job, and the personnel asks you about your past job experience and stuff. That's an interview. What Judge the Honorable Judge Carroll did, that was an interview.
Right.
What she did wasn't an interview. That was and I even said it, and that's when I found out afterwards. I think that's when it first came up. I'm a hostile juror or something like that.
Yeah, they
No,
called
I'm
you a
asking
hostile juror.
questions,
Right.
and
Right,
I
because it sounded like an interrogation. I think one of your questions may have used the word interrogation, and I think that's what got them upset, was that you were using the same language that the plaintiff's counsel was using. But as a former police officer, if it looks like an interrogation and walks like an interrogation, it probably is. Am I right?
correct. I mean, that you were trying to, in my opinion, coerce, frighten, confuse.
Mhm.
That's an interrogation, not
Mhm.
an interview.
Mhm. Yeah,
Interview is what you give a kindergartner when you want to find out if they want to play the symbols or the triangle. That.
right. Right. There was a really aggressive tone to her questioning of him, not to mention like threatening him with, in fact, I think if I continue to let this play, I think they get into that in the next minute or so. Let's let
Did you
this go.
not?
He talked about being represented. We actually discussed his attorney. He never specified that he wanted to speak to his attorney, but that was the attorney representing him in family court.
Did you ever then tell him he had the right to counsel at that point?
I'm not required to.
See, because you don't believe you had him in custody yet?
I know I did not have him in custody.
And at that point, you hadn't even found a reasonable suspicion. Is that right?
I had a DCF report. I had a medical staff with child protection team voicing concerns about the health and well-being of this child, with the concerns focused on the mother and her inappropriate behavior. And yes, I did have a reasonable suspicion to go and speak to him to find out.
It's interesting to me she doesn't say alleged inappropriate behavior, because what evidence did she have of Beata's behavior other than what was given to her in this report? Sorry, I
True.
missed that. Go ahead.
No, yes, true. In other words, it's not at that time. It seems like she went there, and she had a specific. She wanted to end the interview with like a guilty, with "I gotcha" or something, not seeking his version and the truth, but he went in with wherever he got this information, her information from, taking it as dogma.
Yeah, I think we find out later during the plaintiff's cross that she never spoke to Beata. She never went in. Wouldn't you go and did that bother you too? When you find out
Yeah,
here
she
she is
never spoke
investigating this
to
woman?
Mr. or Mrs. Kowalski. I don't even think she even spoke to Maya.
She spoke to Jack, but she didn't speak to
Yeah, that's
Beata.
right.
She
Yeah,
didn't
right.
speak
She
to.
didn't go to that or to any of the, other doctors or anything or, what. But yes, didn't speak to Beata or Maya or Kyle as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The super chats are backing up here for a second, so let's get to those real quick. Delasander, thanks to the super chat, says, "Thanks, Megan. Can't wait. Thanks to you for being a fighter, and thanks to Paul for his service, and both for staying strong through this bull crap." Well, I couldn't have said that better. Unhung Hero, thanks for the $2 super chat and the hippo emojis. I didn't even know that was a thing. There are hippo emojis on you.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
you have to click, I think, on the plus or more, and yeah.
All right. Well, now we know a new thing. We can do hippo emojis. Welcome, Charlie Lynn.
Also, Kurt actually was willing to come down to Florida and represent Paul, and that was really cool. And I thought that was really nice of him to offer that. So
I agree.
that
That was nice. American Dreamer, thanks for the super chat, says, did they all agree from the beginning? I'm not sure you can answer those questions about other jurors. So if you can't answer it, you can just tell them you can't.
Can't answer that. Kind
All
of,
right.
we all researched and came up with our verdict as was announced. But that's all, what happens in the jury room stays in the jury room type thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Laura, thanks for the super chat, says, juror number 1, as a Hialeah resident for the past 23 years, I thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hope Williamson, thanks for the super chat, says, question for juror 1, what was it like to stay after the hearing and hear lawyers argue? Oh, I think she means after your interview. So you were dismissed. Judge Carroll said you could leave, but you left the courtroom and then came back in with your attorney to sit and watch the rest. So what was that like for you?
Interesting, but blah. I mean, there were no fireworks, no gavels, calm down.
Were you hoping for that?
Yeah, no one jumping over at the
No
judge.
Supermaning over the bench.
Yeah, stuff like that. But
Good
it
one.
ended. I would have rather saw more arguments about
I hear ya.
this and that. But I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Julio says regarding Detective Stephanie here, I totally thought that was Sally Smith until I looked at the video. She sounds the same. Oh, I didn't even notice that. Do they have the same type of voice? We'll have to listen some more and see.
What his opinion or basis was in this matter. That's
But
what
she does kind of sound the same. Paul, I don't know if you've heard my Sally Smith voice.
But it sounds like this. It sounds like this. And I'm a child abuse pediatrician. And I just think, I'm the only one who can tell whether someone has been abused or not. You don't need to be an expert. You just need to ask me, because I'm Sally Smith and I know these things.
That's my Sally Smith voice. What do you think?
Well, I'll have to listen to, but you've got, I think, the attitude down pat.
She's very self-confident, isn't she? Getting back to witnesses, by the way, that you may not have believed. I have a list of witnesses that I did not believe. And I would like to play you a couple of clips, and I'd like to know what your reaction to them was during the trial and what your reaction, maybe if it's any different now. But I'd like to know how you thought about it. One of the witnesses who we all just thought was terrible was Ms. Niehaus. This would be the former law enforcement. She then worked for DFS. She was an investigator. She was in the pink shirt, if you recall. I'm going to bring up a clip from her. Let me see. It's at 3:11 something. 3:09. Okay, here, let's move forward. Let's share this. But if you remember this face, this is a face that's hard to forget. So you probably remember her. But she had something interesting. She had some interesting. Now, this was during the actual defense case. They put her on. And here's what she said. Now, I think I'm a little bit behind. I wanted to get to 3:11. Here, right here.
Other items were taken, and I personally delivered them to the child protection investigators at their office and turned them over to Dee Dee Cooper, is the person's name.
At any point, did you take a look at Maya Kowalski's refrigerator in her hospital room at All Children's Hospital?
I did.
What did you find in Maya Kowalski's refrigerator?
There was chocolate cake and other food items.
What did you do with the chocolate cake and the food items in the refrigerator, ma'am?
Seeing as the child protection investigator supervisors advises that no outside food was allowed, that food was also taken that day.
And hearsay, I move to strike.
Overruled. And Ms. Nihas, can you please tell the jury what items were not allowed in during this first visit? If you could list them off for the jury, please.
She was not allowed the cheesecake, the cell phone, the iPad, and the communion.
All right, Paul. Oh, what do you remember hearing this testimony, and did it stand out to you in any way while you were listening to this?
Well, only that they collected all this stuff. Okay, well, I guess, they were leading to they didn't want any ketamine or drugs from outside sources. But I thought I was a little shocked that they go through that much to protect Maya type thing. If that's what you want to call it. And I wonder, I don't think any of that came up as ever like put into evidence as anything and tested.
No, in fact, it came up
So,
that they did not test it. Did that surprise you at all? That here they made
yeah,
this
because
big
you
fuss?
kind of, yeah, well, you make a big fuss. You're confiscating things that could have contraband in it, uh, but you're not checking them to see if it was. Because if you go through that kind of trouble, you damn should test it, because if the Eucharist has some ketamine in it, then you've got a problem. And if none of this has anything in it, then maybe you don't have what you thought you had. In
Which
other
is maybe
words,
why they
why
didn't
even
test it.
bother collecting it then?
Right.
Test it and go from there.
Now we got pretty upset at this testimony on my channel. Did you see it? And when you did your post-trial catch-ups on streams, did you by any chance ever watch any of my streams and see the different memes that were made about throwing Jesus in a dumpster? Did you get to see any of that?
Yes, I did.
And
Yeah.
okay, so
Cool.
the one in particular that I am, and the chat, by the way, does want to ask you at some point what your favorite meme from this trial was. This one's one of my favorite because this one says, "There's no cake or Jesus for sick kids at all children's hospital. We don't allow that. We have Nias throwing Jesus in the dumpster, throwing the Eucharist in the dumpster and cake for no good apparent reason because it wasn't actually tested." This really affected us, and I wonder, we were told that there was at least one Catholic on the jury. Uh, is there anything you can tell us about that? Did that play any role in at least the way people were thinking about this, the disrespect that was shown towards the Catholic faith here?
Well, I definitely, am Roman Catholic. That's where I was brought up.
Oh, you're Catholic. I didn't know this.
I don't
Okay.
think I was the only one though, but yeah, I was taught by Sisters of Mercy, and in high school, the Marist brothers.
Mhm.
But it was weird that they wouldn't allow her, like, the Eucharist or the Mother Mary statue. I believe they had, a
Mhm.
group that would bring it over there and then to the house and so forth. But that wasn't a big thing because I'm not, I'm religious, but I'm not
So
overly
that wasn't
zealous.
something that really got to you like it
No,
did to
yeah.
us, because we really hated this. Let me tell you, I happen to be a Catholic, and I hated this part so much. I
It
don't know what
didn't.
it was about it, but okay, it
It.
didn't affect you that much. Okay, that's good to know.
No.
Good to know. Well, all right. So then the other question I had that relates to this too is, let's see. There were at 3:14. So this is interesting because this might have been one based one of your questions. I'm not sure whose question it was. So there was a jury question to her that I think related to this statement, and maybe you'll know what I'm talking about here.
Did you have an opportunity to view Maya Kowalski and observe how she was moving around, interacting with her brother and father during this visit on October 24 of 2016?
Objection, lack of foundation, lack of predicate.
Overruled. What did you observe in terms of Maya's ability to move around?
I observed Maya to move around freely. She was energetic. She displayed no signs of pain. She wrestled. I would almost describe it as roughhousing with her brother, trying to reach behind his back and roll him over to get a piece to this game that they were playing. They laughed. She twisted around kind of behind her from the hospital bed to the floor to get something out of a bag.
Did you have the opportunity to observe her legs in various positions throughout this visit?
I did. Maya's legs were always in the anatomically correct position like this.
All right. Anatomically correct position like this, she says. And then when we get to the jury questions, there would be, where's the jury question? 60321. We have, wait a minute. What did I write down? Jury question. Oh yeah, okay. So now we have to go over to the plaintiff's thing. So it's 60321, which was after lunch, which is why it's this far away. All right, 603. Here we go. This was the jury question that came up after that testimony.
Write-ups about this case or clips or anything like that. But you're still under it, okay?
I understand.
The first question. In the Harley Quinn picture, how many charms are on that bracelet?
I would have to see the photo again.
Why don't we bring up the photo?
All right. Do you remember this moment here? Was this your question by any chance?
I don't think it was. No.
All right. Did you, when it was being asked, were you thinking back to the moment she said her feet were always like this? And now here's a picture with her feet clearly
Yep.
like this?
Well, distension or
dystonia. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Was that a moment for you when you're listening to the testimony you just heard and then looking at photographic evidence that doesn't match that testimony?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm still wondering. I wish I knew which juror, or I wish the juror would, we could interview them all about this anklet question, because it almost had no relevance whatsoever except to get people to look at her feet in this picture. It's kind of brilliant, and then they even zoom in on it. They zoom in on the feet. So now we have this close-up that now the jury is looking at this very close picture of her feet, which are clearly turned in, which are clearly not like Nia said they were, like this. In fact, I don't think we saw any pictures of her feet that were not displaying this dystonia at all. So this was one of the witnesses that we just found very incredible while we were watching through this. Did you have an overall opinion of Nias's testimony and how you saw it?
I didn't give it the heaviest weight of taking it all as dogma and the truth. I guess I'll put it that way. She wasn't as credible as maybe the defense wanted her to be.
Well, yeah, she also said that she was wearing high heels, and we can see right here in this in this picture that she's wearing flat sandals, children's sandals, and she led us to believe that she was wearing high heels. That was a really weird thing she said. Thank you, chat, for reminding me of that, because I had forgotten that she said that. Charlie, thanks for the super chat, says these lawyers have no shame and shouldn't be allowed to file knowingly false, bad faith speculation aimed to bully members of the public. Sanction J Hatch. I agree that they should be sanctioned. I don't think that's going to happen. But the sentiment is appreciated. Hospice Jess, thanks for the super chat, says for juror number 1, what was the most shocking thing you learned once discharged from jury service? Oh, that's a good question. What shocked you the most when you finally got to catch up on everything that happened?
There was, I think it was when Dr. Sally Smith was testifying, and we were either sent to our room, as the judge would comically refer to it, or we were at lunch. They did some interview with her.
The proffer. I was going to
Okay,
play you some. I was going to play you that too. Yeah, the proffer.
During that, I was just like, I was shocked that she wouldn't take the weight of other doctors into her opinion of what was or what wasn't, what should be, what should. It was like she was the final be all and end all of anything. Wouldn't either talk, didn't care. It was like, it's my way because I'm the doctor and I know what I'm doing or something. And that it's like, wow. I mean, that in itself, well, that's why we didn't know about it, would have made it like, let's just end this now.
Yeah.
And we'll go deliberate.
Yeah, that's our worst fear. It's your worst fear of a doctor doing something like that and thinking like that. And I was amazed that she felt comfortable saying it, even though you were out of the room. Certainly the public was not out of the room, and she just completely changed her demeanor. I have another question about that just popped into my head. I know the chat wanted to know. You saw two totally different Sally Smiths. You saw Sally Smith in her depositions, and where she had a very different demeanor and look than she did on the stand in person. So during her deposition, she was extremely harsh with her hair, like slicked back like this and no makeup on. And she was arms crossed with like really aggressive body language. She was like claiming space. She was in the face of the attorney. And then she comes on to testify in front of you, and this is how she looks, totally different. Hair down, makeup on. They tried to obviously soften her. Did that have any impact? Were you thinking, this doesn't even look like the same woman?
To me, no.
No, it's because you're a man. This is because you're a man. Yolanda, didn't you think it was funny, the difference between the deposition and live Sally Smith?
Yep. And they try to do the same thing with Kathy Beatty, obviously. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. They gave her highlights. They lightened her hair, tried to lighten up her. Men don't notice these things, do they?
Well, not to get myself in trouble again, but it's like, thank God she lets me know she's went to the parlor or something, and so I can say, oh, that's okay.
Oh, you look nice today, honey. Okay, it's funny that he's such an honest person. He's like, nope, didn't see it. No idea.
But the only thing I did notice is when she came in that day for a live interview, she had probably about 2-3 foot of files and folders she brought in.
Right.
And I thought, really? And, because I know the judge with others that did that. Oh, is that in evidence? Or
right.
You can't review, in other words, there's certain things I was finding out you can't do. So why is she bringing in these milk cartons of folders when,
right.
I
It's
got
not
my
allowed.
stuff. So, but no, that didn't dawn on me at all. What's the word? I didn't appreciate it. is the
The
phrase
binder
I've
fort.
learned.
You guys, I deleted the binder fort meme that we made with Sally Smith, unfortunately, or I would have just shown it to him. I had to make room for other memes, and so it's gone. The binder fort is gone. Maybe locals can pull it up for me real quick so I can show him the binder fort, because we laughed really hard because we followed the Darrell Brooks case. I don't know if you remember him, but he was the psycho who ran down those poor children and people at a Christmas parade.
Right.
This guy, Darrell Brooks, he also had a binder fort. He had he built himself a little box fort on the table that he would hide behind. And so we superimposed Sally Smith onto Darrell Brooks there behind the binders and the boxes, and it was quite funny. But I don't have it at my beck and call anymore. Sally Smith was an interesting one. So Legal Vices is in the chat. Legal Vices, thanks for being here. Legal Vices says, "Hey, it's Megan Fox and Mr. and Mrs. Number One, juror number one. Best and worst witnesses." Well, we already got the worst witness. Juror number one thinks it was the detective, and I kind of agree with that. I think Sally Smith was worse, but that's because we got to see the proffer and he didn't. He probably would have said Sally Smith if he had gotten to see this proffer. But what about the best? What about the best witness?
I think hands down the best witness had to be Dr. Joe Corcoran.
Yeah, he was.
Besides, earning the title Mr. Goodhair, he came in and laid things out. And when cross-examined by either or side,
Yeah, this was him on the stand, nuclear bomb after nuclear bomb. This one is funny too. Have you seen this one? This one's hilarious. It's him superimposed onto Putin on a horse, but it's a camel and it's got rainbows coming out of his backside. That's a good one too. Hilarious.
He just he had to know what he was talking about because it was always the same. He never you couldn't frazzle him because when you don't know what you're doing or talking about or you're ad-libbing, that's when you start to frazzle and fumble. He never did. He just told it plainly.
Well, it's interesting when you're telling the truth. It's not hard to stay on topic.
That's a good way to put it. And so he was by far like, wow, where'd he come from?
And sitting in the jury box before you knew anything about Dr. Corcoran, before you knew anything, would you have believed that he had never been an expert witness in a trial before? I'm not sure if they asked him that while he was on the stand. But
I believe they did, yes.
They did. Okay.
And also that he was doing it, what do you call it, pro bono or no fees and stuff like that. No. I guess maybe he has a lot of executive background type thing, so that prepped him for it. But he
unflappable, that man.
Yeah, correct.
And he spent an inordinate amount of time with defense attorneys because they deposed him, I think, several times. So he had been very familiar with the defense and what they were going to do. And, he had been in these things with them for a couple of years. So it's just interesting. He is somebody who is to me, the definition of professional. I enjoyed Dr. Joe Corcoran very much. And for those of you out there, if you are not subscribed to his YouTube channel, he has one. Please search Dr. Joe Corcoran on YouTube and go subscribe, because he's doing some really good things, talking to people about the medical industry and where it's failing us and what we can do about it. And I think he's a very important voice in this. This is not something, he's not trying to make a career out of being an expert witness either. He told me he didn't think he'd ever do it again unless, Greg needed him for something similar, He's not looking to make his fortune on being an expert witness. He's just somebody who knew something and wanted to talk about it. Elephant, this is such a great question. Oh my gosh. Did you get into trouble for not remembering your anniversary date on the stand?
He got it right.
Yeah,
He did.
Eventually.
Yeah,
That's why it's tattooed on his hand, because he's
I got
it is tattooed.
tattoo, and we
Wait,
got this
this
in
close up. Let's see. There we go. It's a hippo, isn't it?
yes.
What is the
And
deal with you and the
was our
hippos?
anniversary, and I take this, which is the number 6, not
Uh-huh.
for Fiona's hip, subtract it from the 22, and you get 16.
That's
So
a lot
I
of
know,
math.
but I had it covered with my jacket. So it was holy cow! I should have put it on my back of my because
He got it right. He did good.
He did. He got it right. Okay, so he didn't get in trouble. See, folks, this is why they have a good marriage, because Yolanda doesn't carpet him about silly things like that. It's okay to have a senior moment about your anniversary as long as it comes up eventually, right? JPC, thanks for being a member. Welcome to the Fox Den. Appreciate that. Been there, done that, says we love juror number 1. P.S. This is for gas money to get home. LOL.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Speaking of that question, that sassy question, did you write that? And if so, did you have any idea that was going to be read on television?
Didn't know it was going to be read.
I knew
I
it.
thought the judge was just good. I scribed it down. It wasn't my exact words.
Gotcha. But you didn't
No.
know he was going to read it. See, I said that was the option I was going for, was that whoever wrote
Like
this
in a footnote in it, like brackets, kind of like which a lot of my notes
PS.
were like that. If I couldn't pronounce a word, I couldn't this a word or that, I put it phonetically and then put it in brackets. But he read it anyway, but that's fine. Ooh.
Yeah, so interestingly, like I think people learned that through this, that when the jury has questions, like not necessarily questions for a witness, but when you're deliberating, if there's a question, that question always gets read out loud on the record. Not the ones that you send up for a witness, because they have to go through them and they have to agree on them, and they change them a little sometimes if they're not appropriate. But anything that comes out of the jury room during that deliberation is going to be read word for word. And what was your reaction later when you watched it back and saw him reading that on the record to the key TV cameras?
Oh Lord, in trouble again.
There
It
I
just
go again.
follows me. It's can't get away from it.
I feel you, Paul. I feel like we have a lot in common there. I have the same problem. Here for the truth, thanks to the super chat, says Dr. Joe Slade. I agree with that. Dr. Joe was amazing. KRH, was it clear how rare and severe the IJ was? Yeah, I have a question that I worded a little bit different along these same lines. And I think the way I worded it was, let me find it here. Let's see. Because this was, did you catch at the time how significant it was that witness Anderson had no knowledge of the immediate jeopardy finding and defense counsel kept it from him? Did you have any idea at the time? Did that seem significant to you?
Didn't realize it at first, but then all of a sudden everyone was jumping up and objecting.
It was their reaction to it that tipped you off.
And then we again were sent to our room. We all were silent. It's like, but we kind of knew something was, or I did, something was afoot. And once we got back in, that's when things started, or the next day it started to unravel.
Yeah.
On, I guess, about the IJ report, which.
And did you see, when you were watching back the stuff you missed, did Yolanda point out to you the part where Howard Hunter tells the judge, "We thought we buried this Dracula years ago"?
Yes. I watched that part, and that was like, but he's still walking around a free man.
There's the self-snitching that was going on there. It was incredible. You know,
Yeah.
it's tough for us watching a court case when we see these things that are kept from the jury, and the whole time we are on the edge of our seats, like, oh God, they're not going to know. They have no idea that they have done these terrible things, that they have kept this from the jury, and they're keeping it out. And where we were just so worried that you as the jury would not get it, that you would be like them and you would still not get it because they did everything they could to keep that Dracula out. But eventually, it came in. Was that a kind of a moment where you're kind of, if you were teetering, you're like falling over the edge now, knowing that they had this culture of intimidation that Dr. Corcoran testified about, and they had, oh, kids are dying because they're not washing their hands. I don't even know if that came into trial, because there were surgeons not washing their hands, and they had oxygen tanks stored improperly that could explode.
Really? No, I don't.
Oh yeah, I don't think that came in. I don't think that came in, but they did. If you read through the actual federal report on it,
Okay. Yeah.
not the IJ, because we still don't know where that is. But they were doing some things that were just incredible. Kids are dying in the heart. They had to pay a bunch of families because the kids died unnecessarily in the heart unit. It was a shocking and horrific thing that the media buried. And you know what, Paul? Here's another question, because this happened. Law and Crime and Court TV did not report on the immediate jeopardy findings, even though they were shocking and horrific to anyone who's ever been in a hospital, right? When you talk about surgeons not washing their hands, improperly stored oxygen tanks, kids dying unnecessarily because of spread infections and, negligence, and them having to pay families, blah, 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 and a culture of intimidation. They didn't report on any of that. You know what they reported the same day? The day of that we found out that the IJ existed, they were busy reporting Maya was seen on Instagram in a short dress going to homecoming. Remember that photo that Shapiro showed you?
They acquired somehow.
Mm-hmm. What were your
Right.
thoughts on that when you saw it and were listening to him explain and try to go after her about this homecoming dress and going out to homecoming?
Well, knowing that CPRS, right?
CRPS.
CRPS, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Can come and go, or be there and not be to the point of being disabling. I mean, there's people all over that have pain, and you just continue living. It's just something she decided to do, and to me, it felt it didn't make me like the defense anymore. It wasn't like, oh wow, this is news, because we had
Right.
already heard from experts on both sides. It can come and go. It can be worse or bearable.
He really thought it was going to
So
be like a gotcha moment. Did you kind of see that
I think
with
that's
it?
what they wanted it to be, but
Yeah.
it was just, okay, well, that's where she was having a better day
Yeah, to me,
or
it
something.
was like I wish I could have used my buttons in court, because after his grilling her on that, this is what I wanted to hear.
No.
We just heard that your
Yeah.
hospital is killing kids with their bad, hygiene and oxygen tank storage problems, and you want us to get upset and concerned over a homecoming dress and a kid going to homecoming. I just was, as a mother of healthy children, I was offended by that. I was offended that lawyers would take a picture of my minor child, right, and try to use it against her on the one night she's having fun. Homecoming is only once a year. What the hell is wrong with these people is what I was thinking. I mean, it was awful. Purple Pros, thanks to the super chat, says, thank you all from Cincinnati. Thanks for being here, Purple Pros. Nicholas, thanks for the sexy money, says, as an LEO, if you heard about a person who has a habit on putting kids that are not theirs in their lap for hugs and kisses, would you have probable cause to investigate that behavior? Oh, that's a good question.
Way back then, that wasn't my realm. Bare minimum, I could write a report on it and then forward that up the chain of command to document
Did that
it.
seem strange to you, where you've got Myas on the stand saying, I didn't want that, I wasn't comfortable with it, I didn't like it, and then to hear Miss Kathy Beatty saying, I comfort all the little children, that's how I comfort her, I was comforting her. I just think I felt like that did not quite go over the way they wanted that to go over.
No, because that's not comforting, a patient in a hospital or a little kid. It felt a little icky.
You think? Yes. Like, ooh, I'm so glad you felt that way, because we all felt the same way. We were like, you did what? It's not like she was saying, no, I didn't do that. It was all, well, that's how I comfort children. It just depends. It's like you hug and kiss other people's children. I think you should stop that. That's not okay. Let's see. Red Pen for the super chat says, for Paul, do you always... Well, no, we can't ask this question. I'm sorry, Red Pen. Thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. But we're not going to go there into the motion with the defense, because that's what they wanted. Let me just explain to you. That's what they want. They wanted to ask that ridiculous question, and we're not going to do that here, because we don't want Shapiro to get anything that he wanted to get. So we're not asking that question. But I do appreciate the super chat. Behind the Magic says, if you don't know Fiona the Hippo, research her. Oh, that's right. I heard that. So Fiona the Hippo was a hippo was it a local zoo by you? Or was it someplace else?
It's in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Cincinnati Zoo.
And
Okay.
the little hippo, Fiona, was born prematurely, and she was basically taken care of by the Cincinnati hospital, and they gave her IVs, they gave her a bottle, and she's become very close to people. So she's like a little human hippo, and she's very famous down
very
there.
affectionate.
She's she's just a
she's
sweet
quite a ham.
And she loves people. And like at this time of year, when the hippos don't come out when it's over 40 degrees, so a lot of people don't go visit. But if it's a warm day and there's no people, she's so sad. She just stands there waiting for people.
Aw.
Yeah.
Aw.
And
that's
she has a
sweet.
brother now, Fritz, as well. But yeah, we follow her. We look at the live cam that they have set up there when she was growing up, and we went there on our wedding anniversary, and
that's why we got our hippo tattoos.
Got our hippo tattoos locally there to celebrate.
I've been to the Cincinnati Zoo, but I can't remember if I saw her or not. So I'll have to go back through my pictures and see if I find any in front of the hippo enclosure, because I'm sure that's where she was. Yep. Charlie Lynn, thanks to the super chat, says, having worked with other lawyers in the past, have you seen Reddit threads being used as biblical fact? Oh, you're talking, this is for me. And making baseless accusations with easily discovered evidence disproving they are not true to boot. No, I've never seen lawyers use Reddit as an arm of their legal research team, ever. Never, not once. And I think, you and Yolanda and Paul, you've been so full of grace for the people at Reddit. I know that you've said, basically, you just don't understand why you're being attacked, and wish them all the best. You're much more full of grace than I would be in that situation. But it's a strange thing. But we never thought, though, that this defense team was the best team we ever saw. We think they make bad decisions. For one, taking on a client with such a terrible case as J Hatch had against with the Kowalskis, it was one bad decision. Another one would be using Reddit and the researchers there as
Mhm.
a a tool for them. That was a bad decision. I don't know. Do you have anything you want to say about that?
Uh, it just seems that so much could have been attributed in their motions coming from Reddit, but that's all it is just I was wanting Judge Carroll to ask for, I think it's called show just cause, I think is the phrase, where,
Mhm.
okay, you're saying they did this and they were, talking, till the wee hours of the morning. Okay, well, where is it? Or she had to have talked to, well, where is this? And
Right, there was no
there
evidence. It was all
isn't, because
nothing.
it didn't happen. And it's not like those accusations came from credible sources of, it's all kind of from online. Oh, they must have, you know.
Right. Yeah, there was nothing there. So I think that basically you're just looking at desperate attorneys just grasping at straws. Benjamin Gray, thanks for the super chat, says, "Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Paul, for all your multiple services throughout your life. Jury duty can actually be fun, and thank you for showing us not to be afraid of it." Would you do it again, Paul, after all
Uh,
of this?
absolutely. And the way I am, I'd probably
I
be
would
the same.
I wouldn't let him. I would say no
Yeah.
because he doesn't realize how it has affected me really deeply.
Oh. Well, let's go into that. Let's actually talk about that. I mean, how how has it affected you? I feel like you, Paul, are like nothing bothers you. I feel like
But
you it's
yeah,
like
we
water
we
off a duck's back, you know?
yeah, we are very different, which is good because we complement each other. He like nothing bothers him. I'm the worry word. He's the type B, I'm the type A. But my family history has been drugged out here and everybody, and that's just horrible. Everything about my children, everything about me, everything about his past. Even though he doesn't really care, but there's an ex there that's was affected, and she
Mm.
also, his ex and I are actually very good friends, and so she, yeah.
That's the way to go about it, though.
They're
Everybody should get
besties.
along.
And as a matter of fact, we all went to Tennessee and
Yeah.
had
And
Thanksgiving
had
together. We
Thanksgiving
are
up
a very
there. Yeah.
close-knit
That's
family,
lovely.
a step to everybody. But she was, oh my gosh, I don't want to get threats, and she's all scared too because her name is out there. I mean, this affected people that had nothing to do with this, and
Yeah, I
that
can
is just wrong.
imagine. That's
It
a
is
lot of
wrong.
anxiety. It's a lot of
Yes.
anxiety.
Yeah.
And you didn't deserve it. I want you to know on my channel I didn't read through that stuff because I felt like it was a real invasion of privacy, and I felt like, especially when you're talking about family members, there may be a that was years ago and there's time to heal and all this stuff, and it might be over and done with and you be in a good spot, and then they're just dragging it all
Yep.
out again for
Absolutely.
no reason to trauma, and it will traumatize the family again, which is just so inappropriate.
Correct. And they don't care. They just keep at it. They just, one of the new things that someone sent me was that the handkerchief that Paul wore was colors orange and purple, and I have photos from years ago with the same handkerchief. Like, really, people? I mean,
I
what
feel
is it?
like Paul likes the color orange. We know he dyed his
He
hair
is
orange
he
for
is very
Halloween.
much an
He's
orange guy.
wearing an orange shirt right now. He
He
wore
had an
an
orange vehicle. What
Yeah, I
was
had an
that?
Oh
orange.
my gosh,
On the pilot. Yep. Yep.
I love orange.
Yep. That's
he
his
likes
favorite. And
orange. It's
purple
like
is
his
my favorite color. So,
Oh, there you go. So,
Mm,
but
yeah,
purple.
but they literally say he's wearing CRPS color and suicide prevention color. I'm like, are you guys serious?
yeah, it's
There's like
just a
a whole
bunch of
thread on that.
yeah, I know. They have nothing better to do than come up with crazy conspiracies, you guys. I mean, my advice to you is to forget that Reddit exists and to never visit them again. But you'll be shocked and surprised at how quickly you forget that they ever were there in the first place. Just don't look at it. I don't look at it. I mean, occasionally people bring it to my attention, but you can always tell people, you know what? Don't tell me any more about what Reddit is up to. because what they're doing over there, I think, and I've scolded them multiple times. It's enough already. They lost. Get over it. This is a jury verdict in America. We do not lightly overturn jury verdicts just because Reddit wants it. We are not going down that road unless there's a real reason. Otherwise, you take a real risk at destroying our jury system. And I don't think even Reddit wants that on their hands. And I think they ought to stop. I'm tired of them. Hunter wanted to send Maya to an out-of-state psych hospital after mom's death. Reason 1 billion why J Hatch wanted dependency court out. Do you think Hunter Shapiro 1617's involvement is contributing to their blunders? Paul, you didn't know this because of all the Chapter 39 stuff, and I don't know if you learned it after the trial, but Hunter and Shapiro were the attorneys in the dependency case as well against the family. So they were, and I don't know how that's not a conflict of interest, but they were the ones fighting to keep Maya, and I don't know why. Why did the hospital have a stake? And this is not a question for you. I'm just saying, why would the hospital have a stake in keeping a child away from her family unless they were worried about medical malpractice and what they had been doing? And so to allow Shapiro and Hunter to then be the attorneys defending them in civil court when they had all this inside knowledge in the Chapter 39 stuff and were actively trying, even after Beata's death, to send her across state lines to keep her away from her family. Did you learn about that at all after the trial? And if so, did that give you any pause about what was going on there?
Yes, I have learned about that, and I believe they also wanted to take Kyle away from Mr. Kowalski. And there's more to all this than we know. I mean, you don't have to be past law enforcement. You don't have. You just have to have. Well, I consider like half a brain at least, like me. There's something more going on here than just a culture of nurses and whatnot at All Children's here up in Tampa that did something wrong. If we could only get a whistleblower to say something and forward a paper, a document here and there's something more egregious and inappropriate, to say the least, going on.
Did you find yourself at all questioning why there was so much fighting over that Chapter 39 issue? You know, did you find yourself like really wanting to know what's going on here? You know,
Yes, that was like every other objection was because of that, it seemed.
Yeah.
You know, and it kind of makes me wonder, okay, well, what more is there not being said here?
Mm-hmm.
So for someone like me, it just made me want to listen more, see what might have slipped out before someone jumps up and says objection type thing.
Right. And there was plenty of that. There was plenty of that where they would let
because
stuff.
it seemed like, you know, I know in criminal cases there's things, or even in regular civil ones, you know, Johnny Depp and all these people, things that can't come into court for the jury and whatnot. But it was like, okay, so what's not being told to us here?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of see if something gets caught. And well, eventually it did at the end with that imminent jeopardy thing.
Yep. It sure did. It sure
you
did.
know.
And, you know, it's funny because Judge Carroll said that about you. He said you were very attentive to everything. He said, I saw juror number 1. He was the closest person to me, and I saw him paying very close attention. And he wasn't surprised that you had questions. And he wasn't, you know, he said some nice things about you. And one of them was how much attention you paid. So I think we should all thank you for paying such close attention and really looking into and seeing what the actual story was here with a team of defense lawyers who were highly paid to mislead you. You didn't allow that to happen. So good for you, Paul. Lauren Cove, thanks for the super chat. Says, Yolanda, how are you feeling after all of this? And both Paul and Yolanda have lovely style.
Oh, thank you. I'm better. I feel a little better now that the juror interview is over, but I know that it's not quite over yet. And, I'll be glad when it is 100% over.
Yeah. And I mean, when do you think that will be for you? When do you feel like this will be 100% over?
Probably when the appeals court gets it and decides what they're going to do with it.
Oh God, that could be years. I hate that. Okay, I love this question from locals. This is a great question. The media only focused on Maya's face for the entire verdict reading. What, if you noticed, if you saw, Paul, I don't know where you were looking during the reading, but we really wanted to know what was going on at the defense table and how they were looking. And the cameras never showed us the defense table, anybody on the defense team. Did you happen to see what their reaction was to the verdict?
No, because I myself deliberately just looked forward. So I was kind of looking at the lady or gentleman that was the transcriber, court reporter.
Mhm.
I did not want to look at any of the attorneys or anything. I just wanted to look straight and not show emotion
Mhm. Mhm.
during it.
Did you find out afterwards, did you know that Mr. Hunter was going to put on another witness in the compensatory phase, but he decided not to because he thought the jurors were looking disgusted?
No, didn't know that.
He did. He did. I forget who their other witness was, but they decided against it because they could see the way the wind was blowing and they didn't like it. That made me laugh. Charlie Lynn, thanks for the super chat, says, thanks for being sweet, awesome, and amazing people.
Thank you.
It's very rare, really, that jurors will come out and speak to the media, probably because of, all of this that happened to you guys. I don't know. But I'm just glad that you have. I think it cleared up a lot of things. And I know that the chat really appreciates that as well. And I like Dr. Corcoran. I think when you're telling the truth, you don't have anything to hide. We believed that you did nothing wrong from the beginning, and we did not see how your wife had done anything wrong either. Yolanda, you've been a trooper through all of this, and I am sorry that this happened to you. I wanted to ask. Let's see what I missed here. The chat wanted to know on locals, did you see anything? Were there any weird or funny stories or things that, aren't related to the trial or whatever that we missed that wasn't on TV during this? I mean, you were there a long time. Lots of stuff was probably going on behind the scenes.
No, nothing that rings a bell or stands out or anything. No.
And what about, we were talking about Dr. Sally Smith earlier and her testimony. One of our favorite witnesses here, besides Dr. Corcoran, was Dr. Newberger. And Dr. Newberger's testimony about the child abuse pediatrics history and his role in it. Do you have any memory, any recollection of how you viewed Dr. Newberger's testimony?
Was he the one that kind of was a founding?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
You only saw his deposition because he was in the hospital, so he couldn't come and be there live. And they had to read part of his deposition into the record because part of it was videotaped and part of it wasn't. But he talked about how he had concerns that the child abuse pediatric specialty was going to become a thumbs up, thumbs down sort of profession that wouldn't have any, multidisciplinary interest. So he was interesting, and I just wonder if you saw if there was any big difference to you between Sally Smith's testimony and Dr. Newberger's testimony as far as how you're supposed to look at child abuse cases. But if it's okay if you don't remember, it was a long time ago.
I don't remember too much about his testimony other than I liked where he was, where he came from and was going to, where he did see that things could get out of hand.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting too. I thought that was extremely interesting to me. I wrote an entire article about that because it was just like, wow, somebody in charge of this pediatric field needs to really take notice of this because we have a real problem going on. I cover all kinds of stories that are like the Kowalski case that are happening right now, including the Hernandez case in Georgia, which is a heartbreaker. And it's another child abuse pediatrician issue, which is real similar to this one. So it seems like we have a problem there. I'm going to show you another clip. This is so funny. All right, let's see. This was another witness that my chat and I did not approve of very much. And I wondered if you had the same kind of reaction to this clip I want to show you. Let's see, where did it start? My pause game is right on today. That's hilarious. Sorry, nurse Amanda Cook, or whatever her name was. She had two names, Amanda Cook and Amanda Flores, I think. So right from the beginning of this testimony, I think it starts right at 114 we want to go to. She started testifying about her background and why she wanted to help little children. And I just wondered if this struck you as odd in any way.
Or chronic problems.
Yeah, so I naturally, when I worked at Sable Palms, those kids were there for an extended period of time. So I took care of the patients as well as communicating with the families. So I just love building relationships with them. And then when I started at All Children's, we had kids that would come in, we'd call them frequent flyers, kids that would come in frequently. And I just naturally would build relationships with those patients. So yeah.
And why don't you tell the jury why it is you decided to make pediatric nursing your calling?
So I have a pretty strong faith background. I grew up in a Christian home with parents who love and serve the Lord, and they taught me to do the same thing. And so growing up, I wanted to be that love to other people, to patients. I wanted to be the hands and feet of Jesus, I guess you could say. And so nursing was a way to do that. I believe that when I walk into a room, I carry the power of the living God living inside of me. And so when I walk into the room, I can bring hope in hopeless situations, and peace in stressful situations, and joy in times of mourning. And so my patients are not just a person, but there's someone I can love. There's someone I can care for. There's someone I can bring hope for. And so it's that little girl that's scared and nervous and doesn't have her family with her. Or
all right, Paul, do you remember her at all? Does this ringing
I
a bell?
do now, yes.
Did you have any thoughts at the time while you were watching this? What about this testimony here?
There's always two hands. On the one hand, when I'm approached by someone that's very religious, I can get concerned that they're hiding behind religion something nefarious.
Yes. We had the same
But then
reaction.
if she truly felt, and I was listening into, if she truly felt this, then that's a good thing. I
I
mean,
agree. I
does she
agree.
live her life where she tries to brighten somebody's day, tries not to offend people, or be helpful? Then I should not be scared of that. and I wasn't. It kind of, to me, I believed more that she wasn't a nefarious person, uh, hiding behind the veil of religion. She just was a good person that really liked what she was doing.
Maybe. I found her incredible. I didn't find this credible testimony to me. I felt like she was trying real hard to convince us that she was this nice person. Now, it is true that Maya wrote her name down as somebody she liked, so that's good. But when I heard that, she does everything she can to help little children, and I think to myself, well, then why are we here? Why are we here in this courtroom? Because if that were the case, maybe perhaps you should have gone to someone and been that whistleblower about what was happening to Maya under the care of Johns Hopkins. I don't know, it grated on me, Paul, and I'm a religious person, so I don't begrudge anybody their religion, but we started calling her the hands and feet of Jesus because it was just over the top. I know you liked Laundry Lady too. We called her Our Lady of the Laundry.
Oh,
Uh,
is that what you?
who Yes, we called her Our Lady of the Laundry because there were so many saints working at J Hatch. We wanted to call the Pope to immediately come to town in the Pope Mobile and just, make an entire new batch of saints from J Hatch. Move over, Mother Teresa. We have Our Lady of the Laundry who did 2 loads of laundry, and for that she will be remembered in heaven forever. It seemed to me that these ladies were just trying way too hard to sell to the jury that J Hatch was a beautiful place full of God-loving people who would never do something as horrible as throw out the body of Christ in the dumpster. And yet they did. So that's what we saw. But, it's funny. You're so much nicer than me, Paul. You're so much nicer. You give people the benefit of the doubt, and I'm like, no, throw this one in the dumpster with dumpster Jesus. Throw her out. I don't like her. I didn't like her. I didn't trust her. And you're like, nah, she's a good person. God bless you, Paul, because you see things differently than I think a lot of us do, which should go to show you people. This man truly was an unbiased person if he could get past this testimony and still like this woman, because I couldn't. I am just bad. I can't. Ruby says Nick Whitney's closing on punitives, tears. There was reporting that there wasn't a dry eye in the house after on the jury when Nick Whitney was giving his closing, and he got to the part about how much would you pay? How much would you pay for one more day with the person you lost? And we were all crying. Do you remember that? And do you remember? Did you at all look around at your jury members to see, was that the case? Was there a lot of sniffling going on in the jury box then?
Yes, there was. I mean,
Yeah, I bet we were crying too. So
I think that's the only time I pulled out a hanky and stuff myself. It was a take notice type of closing.
It's funny. Greg had me in his opening statements with tears. He got me because I didn't know some of the details of this case when I came into it. I kind of just had an overview. And during his opening statement, he got me a couple times. But it was funny because I didn't like Greg for a very long time. It took me several weeks before I quit complaining about Greg's style. The paper shuffling drove me absolutely insane. There was so much paper shuffling, and I was like, oh my God, get it together. These corporate lawyers are going to eat you for dinner. They're so slick and smooth, and they have so many people working for them. Like, Greg, get it together, man. But then I heard you talking on Kurt's in the first interview saying that was one of the things that made you like him a little more, because he was not the slickest, and he just seemed like a normal guy. Tell me a little bit about that, about your the way you saw the attorneys on both sides and how they came off to you.
The defense was very crisp, made their presentation well, like professional, or they were I guess your stereotypical attorneys. Uh, uh, Mr. Anderson and Whitney, right? Nick Whitney.
Mm-hmm.
They made their presentations and so forth, but they just seemed more, how could I put it into as few words as possible? They were presenting things more so that we could understand it,
Mm-hmm.
or more without all the jargon.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking or presenting to us bus stop
So I was just gonna say 6 people at a bus stop.
Yeah, whereas the defense team were by the book, or they had things lined up, they had their ducks in a row, they presented it, they did a little cross here or there, and sometimes I know I felt like I was getting run over by information. It wasn't put out there so that we can understand and make other questions to
Mhm.
find out a little bit
Well,
more.
I felt like they talked in circles a lot. I felt like they did a lot of what we call word salad and purposeful confusion, which left the plaintiff's attorneys with trying to explain what you just heard. Like, wait a minute, you said this, but here in this document we have this. And I think that that's a sign that you don't have an argument. You're just trying to obscure the facts through a lot of extra stuff. Um, so I felt that too. I was always on Maya's side from the beginning because I knew if this story includes child protective services plus a hospital and child abuse doctors, I'm not going to like any of those people. I knew that from the beginning. And I told everybody, don't come here looking for me to be like, well, I don't know who I believe. I don't believe the state. I'll tell you that much. I never believe the state. I don't believe these child abuse doctors. So I start from that position. Now, I could have been convinced. I maintain I could have been convinced, but they gave me nothing to convince me that they had not done any wrong. I saw a lot of wrong and I saw nothing to the contrary. And so that's where I ended up. I'm wondering if there's anything else. I know you've been here for a while. I'm sorry I'm keeping you so long. Do you have places to be? Do you have TV shows to watch?
I think, is it Seinfeld or is it Frasier? No.
I did see a super chat. Yes, we did. We love Skyline Chili. When we were in
Skyline
Cincinnati.
Chili. Oh, yeah.
Oh, as a hippo lover of Cincinnati, are you a fan of Skyline Chili? I love it. It has cinnamon in it. It's so good.
Yes,
And don't
very
they serve it on spaghetti noodles?
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah, that's good stuff. My mother used to make that, even though she lived in Ohio once or something, so that was a thing. Duncan, Idaho, thanks for the super chat, says, just bumping my locals chat to be sure. Thanks. Oh, your locals chat? Did I miss a locals chat from you? Oh, hold on. Oh, God, I've missed 89 messages. That's bad. Oh, look, there's lots of new memes for us to look at. Oh, that's what the chat's trying to tell me. They're upset that I have not been looking at the memes. Okay, so this is something that they wanted to ask you, Paul, and Yolanda, too. Did you have a favorite meme of the trial, and what was it?
You want to go first here? Don't say what the one I like.
No, go ahead.
Don't say. Tell her.
I like the one where Judge Carroll is like, Rambo, and J Hatch is in the background in fire, and he said, like something like,
Oh, that
I
was
went
one
and
that
got him
didn't
myself.
that did not come from my channel. I'm so
Oh,
bummed. That was
sorry.
the one that came from somebody else's channel that was in the motion. Dang it.
That
Chat.
was, well, I wish he would have done that, because
Yeah,
it looks
gone in and
like
got it himself.
they're getting
Right.
away with stuff. So hopefully, there may be some sort of, what do they call them? Where they get in trouble, the attorneys,
Oh,
sanction
sanctions.
or something, or,
Here's a
'cause-
new one. The hands and feet of Jesus. Look, it's nurse. What's her name? It's Amanda Cook. This is a brand new one coming at you, fresh from the locals memers and the meme farmers over there on locals. We've got the hands and feet of Jesus. Folks, you have outdone yourselves on that one. That's hysterical. Oh no, there's another one too. Look, see? Buddy Christ says he's got the hands and feet right there. We don't have the one with Judge Carroll, though, going to get the IJ report himself. I will admit that was a good meme. I don't know whose show that was on. It wasn't mine. Oh, I hate to admit it because we did have the best memes. All right, Yolanda, what was your favorite one?
I actually like the dumpster, the Jesus and
Dumpster
the
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's a classic, Dumpster Christ is a classic meme. That one will always be here. It will be here forever.
I did not like that witness. She was so upset at the end. I mean, she was just ready to leave. She stormed out of that courtroom.
She did. Do you remember this face? It was weird. It was like the demons were coming out. It was hilarious.
The fire was coming. She was,
I also liked Dr. Perno, he was like,
funny.
It's not my problem. It's not my problem. It's not my job to make sure little girls aren't being tortured in this hospital that I run. That was the face he made after he said it's not my job. And I think, wow, Dr. Perno, that's an interesting statement that you made there. And we didn't like that at all. We did have a running joke here on this channel that a lot of the defense's witnesses looked the same and they gave us a vibe. Do you remember, Paul, when you were talking about the lady who brought the traveling Mary? She testified early on in the plaintiff's case, and she said something that to me was a little kooky at first. When they said, "Who asked you to leave?" And she said, "I don't know. It was just a dark force behind me." Do you remember when she said this? There was a dark force. And I wonder if you had any reaction to that when it was said, and then if you ever went back to that testimony in your mind after you heard some things and maybe thought differently of it again. Do you remember that ever making an impact with you?
No, I just figured it was, her say, it was some heavy set nurse or something.
You thought it was a fatty? You thought it was a fatty. The dark force.
A slender, challenged person.
Oh God! Someone who doesn't do their squats. In other words, you thought it might
They
be
do
a
their
fatty.
rolls, but not their squats.
Oh,
Yes.
that's so funny. So the reason I bring that up is because throughout the trial, we then started to see a theme emerging, and we eventually started to see some similar qualities between all these women they put on the stand. We started calling them the Munchie Bunch, and almost all of them looked like they had gotten into the same box dye from Clairol black number 666, and that they were practicing some kind of witchcraft on the side. We're not sure. But we did feel a dark, heavy force, and we thought that it was coming from this bunch. And we thought we should ask the judge, can we bring in the duck? I don't know if you've seen Monty Python, but when you want to decide who's a witch or not,
Remember that one?
you weigh
I
them with it.
watched Monty Python and Faulty Towers and all that stuff. As a matter of fact, we were watching them. Trying to watch them all.
So good. It's so good. All right, here's another question I had to ask you. Was there any moment when you're sitting in the jury that you heard the word Shopkins come up again and again and again, where you thought, what is it with these people and the Shopkins?
Yeah, it came up, I think we're toward the end of the trial or something.
Oh, it was all throughout. It was throughout the whole thing. All of their defense
they were
witnesses.
big on she had them or they got them. I think one of the nurses went out and purchased some and brought them in, something like that.
Yeah, they kept giving this kid Shopkins, and that was all they ever talked about when you wanted to hear, what do you know about Maya? Well, she loved Shopkins, and we gave her Shopkins, and it was Shopkins this and Shopkins that. And to us, it was like this was their only evidence that they did anything nice for this kid, was to give her these little cheapo plastic Shopkins, and we started calling them John Shopkins, which stuck until we read a document, which I don't think came into trial, and the document said, okay, we might have dropped her once. And then it became John's Drop Kids. And yeah, it was a whole thing that happened that it was so funny. Locals, you are killing me. No, I will not be doing shots. I haven't had dinner yet. That would be very dangerous. I've had half a bagel, and so I have to be careful. Slender challenged, says Ginger with a soul. Rackets would love this guy. Yes, our friend Nikki Rackets would just very much enjoy the fat shaming you just did there. That was so funny. Couple more super chats. Lacey Ann says, what did he think about ketamine girl texts? Ooh. How'd that strike you?
It showed that inside culture of whatever the J Hatch, the IJ report was referring to. I guess only say, because I do have a theory on stuff, but I don't want to say it publicly.
Gotcha. We can move on.
But if you read these texts and communications, you should see something sinister.
Mm-hmm.
That's my theory.
I felt that way too. We thought it was sinister as well. Mother of Beagles, thank you so much for the Fox membership gifts. Thank you for gifting that. I appreciate that. Welcome to the Fox Den, whoever got that. Let me go back to my list of questions here. I hardly ever prepare for interviews, but I wrote down a ton of questions. See, we got to almost all of them. Oh, Yolanda, you might want to answer this one. And I know this has been really difficult for you with the Reddit harassment and everything, but have you received any threats since they doxed you and did the things that they have done? Is that something that you're concerned about? Have you received any, in-person real life harassment, or is this generally just kept online currently?
It's kept online, thank goodness.
Thank goodness. Oh, well, that's good news.
Surprisingly, like a lot of people around us didn't even know this was going on. They didn't find out until they happened to see Paul in the news doing this interview.
Oh, that's funny.
Because very few people we told that he was, in the jury. There's no reason to, so nobody knew what was going on until they saw him, and they're like, what was Paul in the news for? And then I would have to explain, oh, you wouldn't believe what just happened since September. And they were like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, do you have a month for me to explain? Because it's going to take that long.
So in our as far as like friends, nobody like even knows. Now they know, but that was going on. So that was a good thing. But it's just mostly online.
Well, that's good, because I think sometimes we get under the impression that, because this is what we eat, live, sleep, and breathe, that it's a much bigger audience than maybe it is. And so maybe that's a good thing when things like this happen. And like I said, if you just don't go to Reddit anymore, it will be like it doesn't exist. It will be like it never happened. So that's what I would encourage you to do, is just don't go there anymore.
I'm just saying, if you ever wanted to do this, I'd be like, no, it's not something to put it. I'm not saying people should not be on juries, but it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, somebody was saying, one of my overseas listeners was saying that they don't have a jury system in their country where they are, and they wish they did. Thinking about it from that perspective, which I had not really considered before, I may decide that it's worth the risk, because our jury system really is special and it's important. And you know what the truth is? The truth is that Reddit didn't win, and JHatch didn't. They didn't succeed in intimidating Paul. And hopefully, because of his example here, he's been very courageous and facing it head on. Hopefully, other people will feel, hey, you know what? I can do that too. I can stand up too. So I just thank you, Paul, for that, because you could have done something different. You could have, retreated. You could have asked to be put behind a screen, and you didn't do any of that. You just said, "Hey, come at me, bro. I got nothing to hide." So that's excellent, I think, for people to understand too. I got one more question. That's it, and then we'll let you go. After the trial, did you ever get a chance to see the video that the judge did not allow in during the punitive phase that the plaintiff's attorneys wanted to show you, where there was the CEO, the current CEO at the time of when the verdict came down, of JHatch, was telling the employees in a private video, "In all my years, I've never been more confident. The care we delivered to Maya was heroic and commonplace." Did you ever watch that after the trial to see what you missed there? Did you see that video?
That almost sounds
I think through our marathon, he did fall asleep a couple of times through it. I think we did watch that, but he probably doesn't remember that.
Wasn't as exciting as being there in person. Although I think some of us did fall asleep. I don't know.
The judge was always asking you about, did you want me to turn the lights off or not? I always thought that was funny, trying to make sure that you guys weren't falling asleep during depositions. But
And
yeah,
he was the one that did the wigs question. I do get that asked a lot. He's the one
the
that
wigs.
asked the wigs.
Oh, the judge got such a kick out of that. So did we. We in fact, Mo in the deep end, she actually did put on a wig for you during our reading through of the dependency hearing transcripts, because we've been doing that on my channel so that people can get an understanding of what happened in that case, because it's been so hidden from the public. But I mean, I do want to ask you, Paul, how does it make you feel to know that the current CEO of JHatch still to this day thinks what they did to Maya was heroic? His words.
With what I was presented during the trial, and with what I've become aware of after the trial, has he seen this himself?
Question.
I almost feel if he has, he, at least in public, could not say that. There is something there are some bad cogs in that hospital. There's great people too, but you know how it is, one bad apple, or it just taints everything. There is something that needs to be addressed there, according to what I've been presented and what most people, except if you're on Reddit, they get their information from somewhere else. I'm not too sure. I don't spend time there. I stay out of the bad neighborhoods as much as I can.
We could definitely describe Reddit as a bad neighborhood. No joke.
But I can't see where he's proud of what's going on and why he just doesn't say, "Listen, guys, what can we do here to just move forward, settle this, and then have at least bare minimum, have a couple of meetings, and act like you're doing something." I mean,
And
that's what
act
the
like you're
government
doing
does.
it. Oh, I know. I feel that way too. Have you ever had to be have you known anyone who's a patient at Johns Hopkins All Children, or have you ever taken your kids? Did you ever take your kids there?
No, I haven't been there. I have found out that someone that we distantly know has a child that goes there that has some very serious uh, issues from birth, but I never knew that was where they went. I just thought they went to a hospital because they're, all over the place. But I never talked to them about it. So yeah, your question is leading to?
Yeah, I would just
Do I know?
wonder if, what do people think now on the ground? People who have been getting care there. I wonder how the patients view this, because I would be very nervous if I were a parent with a child in that hospital, and knowing that they could never admit they were wrong, even in such an egregious case. That would concern me.
Right.
That's all.
Haven't mentioned it and wouldn't,
Yeah, because
because
those
they're,
poor people
yeah,
are under enough stress. Yeah.
yes. In other
Yeah.
words, they are content with the care
Sure.
that they're getting.
Well, and
So,
I mean, according to what we've seen, supposedly there's been a lot of changes that were made and things that were done, and the entire staff pretty much was changed. Well, not staff, but administration was changed out, et cetera. I just think it's they still don't get it part that bothers me. They still don't get it is the thing that concerns me, and I wish that they would just move. I wish that they would just admit it, get it over with. At least just say the people have spoken. Let's do the right thing by this family and make this go away. But we're in it for the long haul now, Paul, and they're going to be fighting it for God knows how long. Anything else that you guys want to say or want to share with the folks before we call it a night?
uh, can you see that? Let's see.
Yeah, here, let me make it bigger. Oh, is this the picture on your dating profile?
That was, yeah. See, that's me on my motorcycle and my little Pomeranian.
Oh, look at
Leather
that.
vest. Yeah, down here we have a company, Purvis Tumbler,
Oh, that's
and
great.
you can send in pictures and arrange them, and they put it in a tumbler. I've had that for years.
Do you ever have like a little sidecar for the dog you can put a little
I
helmet
wanted
on it?
one.
He would have.
I would, but never got one.
Oh
That'd be fun.
gosh,
Put my
that's
groceries
hilarious.
in, you could
That's
ride in
hilarious.
there.
Put Yolanda in the side. My
Yep.
dad always teases that he was going to get a motorcycle with a sidecar and put my mom in it. And she was always like, I would never do that. And I would love to see this. I would love to see my dad riding a motorcycle with my mom in a sidecar. That would get me. That would be fantastic. Thank you so much for being here and for being so open, and thanks for serving on this jury in this difficult case. I sure appreciate you guys.
And thank your listeners for all the support. And,
Yes. In other words,
and
all their
you as
well
well, everybody.
wishes and everything that see what's going on. It really helps that other people are paying attention, and I sure like to see this all come to a conclusion, so that Maya and Jack and Kyle can move on without any worries. But it seems like you're saying it's going to take some time, and unfortunately, that's probably how it is here in the U.S. of A.
And thank you, Megan, because you're an advocate too. I mean, you're following other cases that people are having issues, and you're bringing awareness. And there's just some crazy stuff out there. People need to know. And I've been following some of what you've been commenting on, and it's just insane.
Yeah, the Hernandez case in particular is really bad. It's really bad. And I hope that it doesn't escalate to the point where, they see the same type of tragedy as the Kowalskis, but it's a real possibility the way the state behaves sometimes that parents will just give up hope. And that's something we don't want to see here. If you're interested in the Hernandez case and following that one, check out my live stream earlier today. We did have an update on that with former foster mom, Jennifer Williams. It was a wonderful interview. Plus, we're helping them fundraise for their new attorney. They're trying to hit $5,000. And I just want to say to the chat, you guys raised, last time I checked, you guys raised almost $1,000 for them today. Thank you so much for doing that to their Give, Send, Go. And if you're looking for that link, it would be on the description of earlier today's video. Thank you so much for doing that. What an amazing gift that you gave this family, to just letting them know that they're not alone. And that's really important, letting people know that you're watching, and it's not going to happen to them in the dark, right? Yolanda and Paul, I feel like that's part of the thing that happened here with you guys, is that if we hadn't been watching, if we hadn't actually, if there wasn't so much attention on this case, you would have gone through it alone. And I'm
Correct.
just
That's why I'm very
glad you
thankful.
didn't.
Yep, very thankful for you guys.
It makes
Thank
a
you, Mike.
difference. It makes a difference. Good night, you guys. Thank you so much.
All right.
Good night, everyone.
All right. I just have a couple more super chats to get to. Thanks for M. Young for welcome to the Fox Den. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. There's lots of stuff coming up this week that we want to talk about. Della Sander, thanks for the super chat, says Paul is a juror we should all pray for. Thank you, sir. I agree. I think, I think he showed through his answers that, this is a guy who's going to tell you what he thinks, and he's being as honest as he possibly can. And I got that vibe from him, and so did the judge. So great. I thank them very much for coming on the program. Tomorrow will be True Crime Tuesday. I'm going to be covering an update. I have the mother of Samuel Clemens, who was murdered in I did this case a while ago. Hold on. Let me pull it up on PJ Media, because I had reached out to his mother, Samuel Clemens, in, let's see, PJ Media. Let me pull up my article. This one, when we were all paying attention to the Koberger case, this case came across the wire, and I thought, wow, this is a really similar case to kind of, not maybe as gruesome as the because there were, instead of 4 murders, there was 1, but this was a case that was really ignored by the national press, which should not have been. It was a national media ignores gruesome Missouri University murder allegedly committed by a woman. So we had the story of this woman, Emma Rose Adams, who was charged with killing Samuel Clemens, who was I think 21 years old, a real sweetheart of a young man. And here he is posing with his cat here. And I just talked about the differences, the similarities in these cases, and how the media really just never latched on to this one. I'm going to drop the link for you in the chat. Tomorrow, Samuel's mother is going to be on with me. She got my messages after a while, and she got back to me, and she wants to talk about updates in the case and what's going on. It appears that Emma Rose here has been found incompetent to stand trial. She has a lot of mental problems, but Sam's mom wants to talk about the media and how they have ignored this case. And this is a great case to look at, as far as how the media treats these murder cases, how one can become very sensational when you're talking about the Brian Koberger case and the 4 students murdered at University of Idaho, versus another student murdered very closely in the same time period at another university, but his murder goes completely untalked about because it's a woman who's charged with it. And part of my argument is that is possibly the problem. The media does not like to tell stories of women who do bad things. And then coming up on Wednesday, I will be interviewing Dave Neal. Dave Neal is a Bachelor entertainment stand-up comic and reporter. He has a YouTube channel, and he is he has broken a story that is unbelievable, that the media does not want you to know about because they have not reported it. He's been out there all by himself. We're going to talk about Bachelor Clayton Eckert and his paternity scandal, that everybody in the media wanted to take the accuser's side. And now that it's coming out that the accuser has allegedly made it all up, including possibly faking a pregnancy, or more than one pregnancy, because there have been other men that this has happened to. The media is finally picking it up. If you want to get a jump start, head start on this case, tune into Legal Vices tomorrow morning, because I hear he's going to have Dave on as well. Then I'm going to talk to Dave on Wednesday. But of course, don't miss my stream tomorrow. My stream tomorrow with my True Crime Tuesday, and Samuel Clemens' mom is going to be on with me tomorrow. Wednesday, Dave Neal, we're going to be talking to him. And so it's going to be a very busy day, very busy week. So be back here. Make sure you hit that like button on your way out. And I'm checking to make sure that I haven't missed anything important here. Let me go over to locals real quick. Have I missed anything? Reddit has begrudgingly given me a compliment. Oh,
We have to go to this. We have to read it in Reddit voice. Hold on a moment. Hold on, please. Yeah, hold on. This is so funny. Wrong button, Megan. We're getting there. All right. Somebody posted my interview and somebody said, I can't. And this person said, one thing I'm definitely appreciating is the art form of being an interviewer, as whilst this is better than uncivils, it's blooming tedious to watch. And Scooter McBooter says, okay, I will give her that. It's definitely better structured. But Megan has done interviews before and knows how to conduct herself. See, Megan, I'm not always a salty banana. Kurt, take notes.
Oh my God, you guys, that's so funny. Well, you know what, Reddit? You know what I have to say to that? I have to say thank you very much. I'm glad that you enjoyed the interview. I welcome you here, even if it's hate watching. I think that we can all really get along if we just realize that the people have spoken. It's time to accept the people's decision. And when I mean the people, I mean the jury. And it's time to stop attacking juror number 1 and his wife, because they're decent people. And I know that there are some of you in that Reddit group who you feel bad that they've been under a cloud of anxiety, and that Yolanda is now frightened to serve on a jury. I know that you don't want that. Do you? You don't really want Americans losing faith in our sacred jury system, because like I said, there are people out there living in countries where a jury is not a possibility. It isn't the way they do things. And we don't want that to be our reality. And I think that we can all agree that we need to respect the jury verdict, whatever that jury verdict is. And if it's wrong, then it needs to be taken up on appeal, which I'm sure these lawyers will do. And we need to then respect the appeals court decision. And when these things are, when we believe, like in the case of Zachary Anderson, we believe that he was wrongly convicted. We support the appeals process, but the issue here is to support the process. We don't try to get around the process by digging up ridiculous conspiracy theories and trying to subvert the people's will. That's something that we really shouldn't do, because it hurts the process. So let's just respect the process. Let's respect one another. I think I can appreciate Reddit, those of you who feel very strongly about this issue. I understand. We feel as strongly as we do for the Kowalskis, and you feel as strongly as you do for J Hatch for whatever reason. We still don't understand, but I do understand that you feel that way, and I can respect it. But let's just agree that the people have spoken, and it's time. It's time. Okay. All right. You guys, it's been a lot of fun. I'm actually really thrilled by that Reddit comment. I think we can bury the hatchet now, Reddit. I accept your apology. I feel like that was as close to an apology as I'll ever get from Reddit for being, not so nice earlier. And since it is nighttime, it is 9:20. I think I'll leave you with my chill stream, the night stream outro, because it's cool music. It's wind down time. Everybody go get yourself a glass of wine and chill out. I'll see you tomorrow. And tomorrow's live stream is going to start at, well, follow locals to know, because I forget what time I told her. I think 10 or 10:30 a.m. But meganfox.locals.com, that's where you're going to get all the notifications. So make sure that you are following me over there. Hit the like button on your way out. See you later.
Thank you.